But right now, she joins me live in Studio Q, and I'm fangirling. Hello, Sarah.
Hi.
So excited to have you here. We share a bit of a background. I was a corporate lawyer before I became a comedian.
Oh, yeah.
And I understand that you come from a securities law background.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but I did my first job when I moved to New York. My day job, while I was trying to pursue comedy, was working as a financial analyst for a securities fraud plaintiff's firm. I calculated damages for really big cases. Like, it was crazy. I don't know how I just knew a guy.
You knew a guy?
I knew a guy. I got this job, and it was just, I got taught this niche thing that we were supposed to be doing, and I stayed there for like 4.5 years while I pursued comedy at night, and it was a struggle because the day job was, I was actually good at it, and that was actually a challenge because it would have been really easy. I felt many times just sinking into that job and
nice regular income.
This is stable, benefits, all those things. And it was a constant struggle to like kind of smack myself in the face and be like, no, this is not what you want. This is not what I dreamed of.
So you knew before the day job that comedy was it. You had already started in the comedy world.
Yeah.
What was it that drew you to comedy, and at what point in your life did you sort of have that feeling like this might be the thing for me?
I didn't make an official decision to pursue it until after I graduated college, but I had been involved in comedy and doing funny things since middle school. Middle school was when I really understood that I was a funny person. Or thought I maybe was a funny person. You never really know if you're funny.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard. But I remember it was a very specific moment actually. I was a Southern Baptist, and I was at youth group, and we did this activity where everybody wrote down on little pieces of paper things about everyone else in the room that they liked about them, and then you got your little bag of pieces of paper back, and you read.
Oh, that's
the
nice.
things.
Yeah.
And it was probably 20 kids in there, and I would say probably 18 of the pieces of paper said she's funny.
Oh,
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm funny. I'm going to just go with that.
Did you by any chance keep the bag?
No, I didn't.
Wouldn't that be so cool?
I wish I did. I'm kind of a pack rat, so I'm like, why didn't I keep that?
But yeah, that would have looked great in the museum someday.
Oh, yeah.
A few years ago, you started a podcast with your friend Nikki Glazer, and that became an MTV Talk Show where you skewered pop culture. So what was that experience like?
Oh, it was crazy. I still sometimes can't believe it's real. I mean, the fact that I got my dream, my dream was always to host a talk show, and the fact that it actually happened was crazy because I'd kind of given up on it a little. I hadn't given up on the dream of comedy and being successful, but to host a talk show was awesome. And we had 2 great seasons, and I mean, it was also one of the most challenging things I've ever been through, but
when you put on that naked suit at the under, I was like, she has got cojones the size of outdoors.
I'm not joking. Like, I have this thing. I think people in nude bodysuits it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So
when you were particularly funny at it.
When we started the show, I was like, we need to figure out a segment where we're wearing nude bodysuits. And I just kept pitching ideas
from that.
until one finally worked.
I love it. How surprising was it for you that you start out in comedy and then all of a sudden, like, your job is you're making jokes about the Kardashians?
That wasn't expected because I never really when I first was starting out in comedy in New York, I wasn't doing topical jokes. I was doing stories from my life, and that was all I knew how to talk about. And then gradually, through different jobs and things I had, I started to have to learn those skills of like how to talk about things that were happening in the world. And what I liked about Nikki and Sarah was that we made fun of pop culture, but we also loved and love pop culture. So I didn't want it to be mean. We were never going to make fun of a woman's body like in a mean, derogatory way, and we were never going to try to trash someone for no reason. I think it was always ending, we would always be joking on ourselves at the end of the day. And that was, I think, made it a fun party type of feel.
That's certainly what has made me your fangirl. I think any kid in grade 6 can be a bully. You don't need to be that clever to do that kind of thing. So
it's definitely the easy route.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's such a culture of it right now. If you saw, Russell Brand just posted a great little bit about all the abuse that's being heaped on Bruce Jenner right now, and saying he's a human being.
Yeah.
We forget that sometimes. But of course, it's awards season right now. And awards season, the Twitter sphere gets inundated with tons of snark.
It does. I love it.
Do you think it's possible to actually kind of like skewer the rich and famous, but without going to that mean place?
Yes, I think that it's of course we make observations that are funny, and whenever I love live tweeting the award shows, it's like I will cancel all other plans. I'm like, no, I have to be at home so I can be on Twitter, because it's fun. It's funny. I love reading other people's jokes about these things. It's like we're all doing something together.
Yeah, true.
And I actually made a joke about Jeremy Renner on the Golden Globes because he made a really weird joke about J-Lo's boobs. And I was like, this is a professional setting. I know that it's like glam and she's definitely showing them, but it was weird to me. And I made a comment about it on Twitter. I said he was kind of creepy. And like even today, I'm still weeks later getting I guess Jeremy Renner has a lot of really serious fans because they found my tweet somehow, and they're just like, "Look, lady, get over yourself. Jeremy Renner, it was just joking, freedom of speech." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I can call him a creep. That's part of freedom of speech.
That's your freedom, exactly.
Let's talk about how freedom of speech works."
Yes,
but yeah, it was funny. It's like I wasn't being mean. It was just silly.
I saw too during the Golden Globes that a male comic had tweeted out about the co-hosts. They're bordering on too hot to be funny, and there was so much wrong with that. What do you make of something like that?
It's something I hate that that's part of the equation for a female comedian. It really, really bothers me because I feel pressure to be pretty sometimes, and other times I feel pressure to not be pretty. And because there's this weird assumption that if you're pretty, you're not funny, but you better be pretty enough.
Yeah.
Which is this double standard that is, it's impossible to win.
If you want to be funny in the movies and you're a woman, you got to be pretty. If you're a man, you have a burger.
Yeah, like one time, they do it all the time, but like Esquire magazine or GQ will do like funniest women, and it's all actresses.
Right.
And they're like super hot. And I'm just like, well, what about the actual comedians? Like, what about the ones that are like actually funny?
Who are making their living being funny. So you're saying you love that whole idea of tweeting during the show. Does it ever feel exhausting for you? Like, do you ever think, oh, I wish I could just sit back and have a glass of wine and just watch?
Yeah, I consume an enormous amount of TV. I have a real interesting life, but I usually, when I'm watching TV, it's just me and the show. I don't engage in Twitter stuff.
Okay.
But on the awards, it's more of a party, and I think that works for me. But I sometimes Twitter can be such a double-edged sword of like, I love that it has exposed me to so many different points of view. I purposely follow people that are different from me and like click what they link to and see what are they reading and I feel like it really has expanded my mind, but at the same time, I'm like, why am I so depressed that this tweet only got 20 faves? Like, there's that negative, and you're comparing yourself to other people. It can be I have to turn it off. I have to limit my time on there because it's just.
Yeah, I think that's good advice to anybody. This is kind of an interesting time in pop culture because, of course, there's a lot of serious stories in the United States. Bill Cosby. We have one close to home here. Has that made it harder to make light of pop culture when such serious things like that are happening?
For me, it's like humor for me, and I know for a lot of comedians, probably every comedian, is a way of dealing with those dark things. And I am definitely of the school of like, we can joke about anything. The only thing I would say warn a young comedian is, and myself, is joke about anything, but know that some things, a lot of people won't like. you know? And so you
Right.
kind of have to, I think sometimes comedians get really babyish about, you know, like they'll be like, well, I'm allowed to say whatever I want. I will not apologize. And it's like, well, if you hurt a lot of people, like what, you know, the point of comedy is to make people feel good and laugh. Who are you if your point
Exactly.
is to hurt people? That's not what, no comedian wants that. So when they realize they've hurt a lot of people, I always am confused by some of them that are like, I will never apologize. And it's like, well, but maybe you made a mistake, you know,
Yeah.
and that's okay to admit and move on. You
Yeah,
know,
we're all human.
an empty apology is never a good thing. But if you truly are like, I misunderstood, I'm
Yes.
sorry, you know, I will try to be a more evolved human being, you know, and I think that conversation is exhausting after a while because it keeps the outrage machine is like out of control right now. But I also think some of it is healthy and it's changing. We should stand up for, you know, wrong-headed
right.
thinking.
Yeah.
For what's right, you know.
I saw one of your tweets, but I saw it afterwards, so I wasn't watching the Golden Globes at the time. But you said, hooray for actual women. What was happening that
Oh, that's
prompted
actually
that?
something Maggie Gyllenhaal said. She goes, I love that there are now starting to be roles that portray actual women, which is a
Right.
commentary on that in Hollywood. There are a lot of roles that portray women in very empty, one-sided roles, or that they're secondary to the male characters, and that you'll see. I mean, now there's way more female characters on TV and in the movies
True.
that are complex, unlikable. Like that's a rare quality in a female character to be like, you know, Walter White on Breaking Bad. We hate him. He's
Yes.
awful, and people love him. And then his wife, Skylar, her character, she's hated. Like she got death threats. The actual actress got death threats for like being you know, but it's because that's definitely a sexist thing in my mind, you know.
Right. It's so true. You know what?
You know.
I think I'm even guilty of that as I just thought of that right now, because you're right. We did love him even though he was horrible.
She
Yeah.
wasn't as bad as him.
Poor.
But she got a lot of flack for not being whatever people thought her character should be, which is crazy.
So in her real life, the actress I think
she-
is Anna Gunn is her
Anna
name?
Gunn, yeah.
She got death threats in
She
her
got
real
a
life.
lot of heat, and she wrote a really beautiful, very succinct article, like just op-ed about, you know, let's think about what that means, that my character caused so much, you know, vitriol.
Yeah.
And is it because you're not used to seeing a woman be complicated?
Yes.
So I think that's a really interesting thing. So yay for actual women.
Oh, I love it. Now it all comes clear to me. You host a podcast for New York Public Radio called Lies. It's a celebrity interview show, but there's one rule. Every one of your guests has to only tell lies.
Yes.
So
Is that not what we're doing here?
Is it? No.
Just kidding.
We're all about the truth on the cue. You've had comedians like Jenny Slate, Wyatt Cenac. Like, where did your idea come for that podcast? And what do you try to get at with the lies part?
I actually came up with the idea because I was so tired of my former podcast and my all podcasting. Not all, but a lot of podcasting right now is just about confessing. What's your backstory? What's your origin story? What's your broken clown, you know, comedian drama? Like, why are you so messed up? You know, there's so much of that confessional style podcasting. And I was just fatigued with my own podcast where I had basically told every story I had, and I was digging too deep. Like, I don't want to tell some of these things, but I felt compelled to because I knew that's what people liked. And it was like oversharing, like binging type thing. And I suddenly was like, wouldn't it be funny to do a podcast where no one has to reveal anything? And maybe perhaps reveal everything at the same time. But like, I feel like
so deep. Just let that sit for a minute, listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been really fun. I'm very proud of it. It's one of the funniest things I've been a part of in my mind. It's the improv of me and a comedian just going down the rabbit hole together.
And it is fun sometimes, right? To instead of it being a lone sport, to having that interaction with the other comedian.
Yeah, and you start to play together, and you know, because there's no prep. The guest has no prep. I come in with a set of questions, and they don't know how I'm gonna go, you know, and and then they know, you know, and you see them kind of be gloriously free in the ability to BS, you know, like just to be like, oh, I don't have to like talk about being on the road. I don't have to, or if I do, I'm going to lie about it. And and it's funny. It's really great.
And do you find that that is kind of building up your own creative juices? Like, does that expand your experience as a creative artist?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many different ways to be funny, and when I'm on stage, I am mostly telling the truth. I you know, it all comes from real things that I think have experienced. And so to do something that is just completely improvised and silly and lives in a world that doesn't exist it's a relief. It's like, okay, I can just be someone else for the day, you know, and that's great.
Well, if I can make a recommendation to our listeners out there, when Q is over, Google Sarah's piece on chocolate commercials.
Oh, yeah.
Because that one just tickles me right through to my backbone.
Well, the video you'll find is very old, but the joke is so much more elaborate now. So, like, I highly recommend coming to see me perform. Or I'm recording my first stand-up album this week.
Oh,
I'm very excited. So when that comes out, you'll get to hear the full chocolate commercial.
And
joke.
we will be tuned in to see you get nominated at the Grammys for that one. And I will tweet out actual women. Sarah, it has really been an honor for me to get to chat with you this morning. Thanks so much
Thank you
for coming in.
Thanks, Candy.